Hey, good morning and welcome to Kinsey's Blue Vantage training today. I'm Brad Neenstead, product specialist with Kinsey. I've been with Kinsey 19 years now and excited to kind of walk through what Blue Vantage enhancements are for model year 25. And just first of all, want to say thank you for you guys tuning in. Number one, taking the time. Of course, number two, for your business, whether it was a used planner, a new planner. We always appreciate you supporting Kinsey and appreciate you utilizing and thinking of Kinsey as your planter choice. So kind of how the day's going to roll out. We want to keep it as informal as possible, and we want to get your questions answered. So if you have questions as we're going through the day, utilize the chat feature, type those questions into the chat, and we'll answer them kind of as we go through the day, as we go through topics on Blue Vantage. Zach, who's kind of off screen helping me out here, will help interject with those questions. And by all means, any questions open, whether it's Blue Vantage or planner specific or whatever it might be, we definitely want to get those questions answered for you. So going to spend a little time on a short PowerPoint presentation just to talk about what is improved or new, kind of hit the big highlights for model year 25. And then, of course, majority of the time we'll spend walking through the display and going through everything from setup to section control adjustment to diagnostics, troubleshooting, data management, all those type of things as well. So we'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to switch to the short PowerPoint slide that I want to walk through and talk about what's new in model year 25. So really want to start with our background picture. Of course, model year 25 software is out there and available to update. Two ways to do the software update. Of course, you have directly off of the website, kinsey.com, and I'll show you where that is towards the end of today. And of course, if you connect your Blue Vantage to a Wi-Fi signal, we can do, or it will has the capability to do a Wi-Fi update as well. One thing I'll talk about, and I'll refresh it again towards the end of today, is if you did update to model year software 25, really prior to yesterday, okay, we did come out with another version of software for model year 25. The background picture that you see on the screen is the same, but we made a minor change just to help with a erroneous position sensor error that was coming up. We just did some changes to help suppress that error, and again, just different configuration process with that sensor to stop it from alarming. So if you've updated already or you're walking through the tablet with me today and you have model year 25 software, no big deal. Just, again, check and update to the latest version that just came out yesterday as well. So model year 25, again, highlighting, again, back on that software update piece. Of course, all the Blue Vantage updates are always free. We only come out usually with one a year, of course, with this usually right around this time frame, mid-February, early March. Again, annual updates. You have the wireless option we've talked about. And, of course, the biggest thing we've started with Blue Vantage back when we started it, and kind of the unique part in my spot or position as I've been able to be involved in Blue Vantage since we started it, really back in that 2015, 2016 timeframe. And really the core layout of that display was to utilize any unlock codes. So there's no hidden fees, extra costs once you buy Blue Vantage. And if you have an older generation planner or older generation Blue Vantage and Blue Drive equipped machine, when you update to model year 25 software, any software update, you get the features that come with that update, whether you utilize them or not. So again, kind of a unique part in the industry, no hidden fees as a whole.
Just had a comment about up the volume.
Yeah. Yep. Thanks for chiming in so I don't talk to myself the whole time. All right, so just talk about some of the unique features with Blue Vantage, and one being shared coverage mapping. So the ability to have two Blue Vantages in the same field at the same time. We've had this feature for well over 5 years. I just want to highlight again, this is one of those features that Doesn't cost anything. All right. You just need a Wi-Fi source in the tractor cab, and you can have shared coverage mapping between the same Blue Vantage equipped machines. So just want to highlight, again, it's free. You need a Blue Connect account, which I'll show and talk about here later in the day as we walk through some of those features. But shared coverage mapping, again, been there since for the last several years. Blue Connect remote support, the ability for the dealer to log in to your tablet. But more importantly, we don't just give the dealer only access. You can have your son, your agronomist, anybody log in to the display, help see what you see, and walk through that feature. Okay, it's not a control part, it's just a viewing. So again, you can talk to your local dealership if you're having an issue. They can see what you see, walk through troubleshooting on the phone while they watch your tablet, and help get you fixed. And maybe save a service call, help save that downtime. Only thing you need, again, is a customer-supplied Wi-Fi source. So that could be the hotspot on your phone, or again, a Wi-Fi hotspot that, again, just lives in the tractor cab itself. So again, Blue Connect remote support, been out for a couple years now. Again, no cost to it. You just need a Wi-Fi source in the tractor cab. So you could just use the Wi-Fi on your phone when you need support, and then turn that hotspot off when you don't need support, again, to keep you up and running. And again, no cost to you guys besides the Wi-Fi part of that integration. A big change for us this year from a user interface standpoint, the ability to or have a split screen option. So the ability to see two maps at the same time. So almost all of our improvements as we introduce them into Blue Vantage is really based off feedback from you as the user. I spend a lot of time talking to farmers in the field every year of, how do you like it? What can we improve? How can we make enhancements? And this is one of them, and what we're going to spend a good amount of time on today. The good thing about it as well, again, we didn't have it last year. We have it this year. Again, once you update the firmware, you get that feature. So we'll walk through this more once we get into the display itself.
Do you have a question, Brad?
Yeah.
Is Blue Connect only available via an iPad, or is there an iPhone app?
So Blue Connect is really a cloud-based service. Okay, so Blue Connect account, you would sign in, and I'll walk through it on the tablet here later once we get towards the end. But Blue Connect is merely a web-based service where you store data, you get the ability to have remote support and all those type of things with Blue Vantage. So it's just a web-based service. It's not an app, not yet. It's just a web-based service that we utilize to store your data, share data, and have all these other features we'll talk about. And we'll get into Blue Connect here towards the end, where that is, where it lives, where you sign up, all those type of things. Another enhancement that is for this year, again, direct feedback from you in the field, is a replant feature. Okay, and what this replant feature does is ability to plant over an area where there are no seeds in the field. So for example, you ran out of seed, forgot to turn the bulk fill fan on, those type of things. And the picture on the screen, and I'll be the first to admit, this is a picture from our farm at home, and you can see the red streak in the middle of the field. Okay, so basically what happened is row 12 ran out of seed. You can see where it started to go yellow and then turned red on the screen, and then you can see the orange kind of hard line where I stopped and obviously went out and figured out what was going on. With the replant feature, what you can do is simply drive back over that same location in the field. Okay, so let's say we pulled out, we came back around, tried to drive back down the same path where that one was. You set the planter down. The only row that turns on is the row that is over top of that red part in the field. Okay, so what happens? That planter goes across that red streak. It turns on one row, several rows depending on how much red is on the screen, and we automatically replant whatever the target population is for that area. So even if you're using a prescription map and it was 20,000, when we come through, that one row will replant 20,000 in that red section of the area. It does it automatically. This feature is turned on automatically. It is adjustable with which what percentage that, of course, the map turns red. It's kind of based off your low population threshold alarm. In default case, it starts at 70%. So anything less than 70% would give you a low population alert. It would show up as red on the screen. And then as you come through and plant over top of that row, again, it doesn't have to be the row that actually ran out of seed. So in my case, it was row 12. But if I got off and let's say row 10 was driving over top of it, row 10 would turn on and again fill in that area.
You have to be going in the same direction.
You don't have to be going in the same direction. Again, you can almost go across it diagonal if you so choose. I wouldn't recommend that. You obviously want to be straight in the row to have the best performance. But no, you can turn around and go backwards through it and still have this feature work as well. So direct feedback from you guys in the field, replant feature is part of the 25 software.
Hey.
The ability to support Climate's Field View Drive or the iPad app, their Field View Cab app. This feature has been out for several years as well. I just wanted to highlight it because a lot of guys ask. You get a cable kit from Ag Express. That's who Climate uses to build all of their cables and harnessing. You plug it into the Blue Vantage display, and all of your setup is done on the iPad itself, and the feature works. Okay, again, another enhancement that we made a couple years ago. No unlock codes. There's no setup to do on Blue Vantage. All of the setup is done on the iPad app. And then, of course, you can live stream data to the Cab View app, and then, of course, up into your Climate account as well. So, again, that feature's been out for several years. Just, again, want to highlight it. I realize a lot of you guys use Climate for data management. Again, we can use the Cab app and the Bluetooth dongle as part of that data acquisition. It's just log data out. We don't have anything coming in the other way just yet, and I'll talk about that here in a second.
Hey.
Another addition for model year 25 is the ability to connect. So we go back to that Blue Connect account we talked about earlier. The ability to take your Blue Connect account from Blue Vantage and sync it with your John Deere Operations Center account. So again, throughout the season, if you have Wi-Fi in the tractor cab, or you can wait to the end of the season, of course, bring the tablet indoors, connect to the Wi-Fi in your house or shop, and then send the data to your John Deere Operations Center account wirelessly. So all of your log data from acres to grower farm fields, hybrids, all those type of things will automatically be synced to your John Deere Operations Center account. We'll walk through again the Blue Connect part. We'll talk about the connection we make to those and how that happens. It's very, very simple, very easy, but I'll walk through that at the end to kind of walk you through that process. We have the same feature with Ag Leader Agfinity as well. So the ability to sync your Agfinity account with your Blue Connect account associated with your Blue Vantage display to do the same thing and send log data to your Ag Leader Agfinity account as well. So for model year 25, both John Deere Operations Center and Ag Leader Agfinity, we are just sending data to those linked accounts. So log data is the only thing going. So it's one way for model year 25. For next spring, model year 26, we're working on pulling that data from John Deere Operations Center and Ag Leader Agfinity into the Blue Vantage display. So that would be, bring prescriptions and boundaries and grower farm and field information into Blue Vantage from these accounts. So in a sense, going both ways on a two-way street. Right now for this spring, it's just one-way street, sending the log data to those logged accounts. I know some of you probably are utilizing Case IH's Field Ops and their new cloud-based item. We're working on that integration for next year. Really, we're waiting for Case IH to put resources on it to provide the integration. We're ready to go. Whenever they're ready to go, we're certainly willing to work on it, get that same feature with them as we have with Operations Center and Ag Leader Agfinity. So again, a feature that comes with model year 25 software as well.
Egg.
Okay, so let's transition to the display itself and really spend majority of our time walking through the Blue Vantage display, layouts, and again, kind of get into the meat and potatoes of what we want to talk about today. Kind of walk through the display itself.
Egg. Egg.
Okay, so Blue Vantage display, again, as I talked about earlier, this is what the background screen looks like for model year 25 software. And I realize we probably have some new owners on it. We probably have some legacy owners as well. So some of this might seem redundant for some of you, but I really want to kind of start at the base and kind of work our way up to it. And really, if you start on the display itself and you look at this top bar up top, this is really a planter status bar. You can see it's just doing roundies or searching for these features. So really, if something on the planter isn't working correctly,
Egg.
one of these will not be highlighted or not get a checkbox. Okay, so right now it's searching for everything. Of course, built into Blue Vantage is the training mode,
Egg.
which again allows you to do everything I'm going to go through today. And I realize we're going to spend a lot of time and throw a lot of information at you. And I want to highlight as well that at the end of this, it will be, or it is being recorded. We will put it on Kinsey's YouTube channel, so you can certainly go back and re-listen and relearn about everything we talk about today. So don't feel you have to know all or remember all today either. So we're going to start by turning on training mode. So going into settings, in the lower left-hand corner is training mode.
Egg.
We're going to turn training mode on. And you can see we have a couple options. So,
Egg.
excuse me, you can have a front fold design or a pivot fold design. So if you're running a 3665 or a new 5670, you can select pivot fold and, of course, get the operation and layout like you would see on a pivot fold as well. We're going to leave it on front fold for today. We're going to turn GPS playback on. So it's actually simulating driving. Going to hit our checkbox. It comes back to the home page, and you can now see at the top, those checkboxes start to come alive. So as you connect it to the planner, we turn our alternator on. It basically does a self-check, and we can see we have all of our checkboxes on the upper part of the screen. Yeah.
We have a question that came in regarding the John Deere Operations Center.
Okay.
For John Deere Operations Center, we implement guidance on our planner. Will uploading planter info overwrite my AutoPath that I am recording for the same operation on my Gen 4 screen when uploading?
So, yep, question on implement guidance. Will it override that data when it comes into Operations Center? Absolutely not. The only data that we're sending to Operations Center would just be the logged information. So acres, grower farm field information, hybrid, downforce, those type of things are what will be uploaded into Operations Center. Again, during your planting season, if you have Wi-Fi in the cab, or at the end of the season, if you want to upload it all at the same time, just log data. It will not affect implement guidance or any of that tracking information on the Gen 4 itself. Completely separate thing. Yep.
Egg.
Okay, so we have our training mode turned on. I'm going to press to have the toolbar go down to simulate the planter is down. And I'm going to shrink this box out of the way by pressing this little down hash. And now it comes up and I'm back to the home screen. So on the training mode, what happens is we basically put all of the options into the training mode piece. So again, cameras, we support cameras. Maximum we can support is 4, so we always put, again, the maximum amount of options into the training mode itself. Okay, so it just allows us to show you every option on there. Again, if you don't have that feature on your planner, of course, it just won't show. All right, we don't take up extra space as a whole. Okay, so at the top, I have our status bar. We come over to the plant icon. Of course, what you can see is pulsing. This is where we're going to start to set up our planting operation. So these are previous fields that I have already planted on the list. In order to make a new one, we come down and press add, and it takes us to task setup. So everything you need to set up on the planter before you start planting lives on this screen. All right, and of course we have at the top our grower, farm, and field selection.
A
The unique part about the Blue Vantage display is that you don't have to enter in a grower, farm, and field if you don't want to. All right, so again, make it very, very easy and simple to set up. If you do, this is one of the locations you can add or type it in as you go. So if I click on grower, I can select this grower, this farm, and this field. All right, and of course we can add them at any time down here. Okay, not going to go through typing. I'm sure you guys can figure out the typing part of it, but just want to show you, again, simplicity of adding grower, farm, and field layout. And this is one location you can do it. I'll show you the other location here once we get towards the end.
A
Okay, we have our grower, farm, field layout. Then we have our other planter boxes, and it starts with our products tab. Okay, so if I click on my products, it takes us to, in this case, seed. Of course, again, the planter's equipped with everything, so I have seed, fertilizer, and insecticide on this machine. Right now, we're selected on corn. You can see I just have 2 products in there, an unspecified and a pricey hybrid. If we're adding hybrids to the list, similar to what we've done on the grower, farm, field, if I press manage at the bottom, and I can press add here, and I can type in my hybrid information. So,
A
oh,
mini.
Type in my hybrid information. It then asks us for seeds per pound. Again, this isn't required. We give you a default seeds per pound. All right, for reference, the big function for seeds per pound is really to help us calculate bulk fill scale information more accurately. If you don't know what it is, 1,700 seeds per pound is fine. We'll leave it as a default for today. We hit the checkbox, and now we can see we have that product on the list. If I hit my checkbox one more time, we can see it is now on the list over here. Okay, so now if I want to do a split planter application where I want my rich hybrid in my left tank and the pricey hybrid in the right tank, here I've selected split planter application here. If I go up to fertilizer, tap on fertilizer, this is set up for the newer 5000 series liquid fertilizer system. Of course, this is where you can enter in your application rate. It's similar to a 4905 style fertilizer system. You, again, are going to turn the product on and off, set your application rate. You can, on the 5000 series, we've added this interactive orifice chart to really help you figure out which orifice you should use. And when you click on it, it allows you to select your row spacing, the rate or gallons you're going to apply. So let's say I'm going to apply 6 to 8 gallons an acre, and my speed is 6 to 9 miles an hour on average. We see that I need a 48,000 orifice in order to make that work with these parameters. So really helps you identify which orifice you need to help take some of the guesswork out of the mix. The next part about this chart as well is you can see the different colors of bands here, which helps you recognize which size strainer you should be using in the new flow switch, or should there be a jet orifice used, or to take the jet physically out. Again, good reference here to tell you what's going on. And if we press on this parts box over here, it gives you a breakdown of that new flow switch to show you where everything goes as well, to help you in the field. There is, again, dedicated videos just to the fertilizer system, specifically the 5000 series and all the parameters that fall into what to use in certain scenarios. So you want to get into specific detail, there is dedicated videos just for that function. Don't hit my checkbox to go back. Hit my checkbox to go back again. Highlight my orifice chart, leave my rate, check again, and now we're back to task setup. We'll come back to the maps tab here in a second. If we go to the pressures tab, over here, this is where we can set our vacuum, bulk fill, and in this case, our true depth hydraulic downforce setting. So the nice part of this about this display being dedicated to the planter is we know exactly the size of the planter, the crop you're planting, to give you the recommended starting points for vacuum and bulk fill. So you don't have to guess, you don't have to look it up. We give you a good starting point. Okay? If you want to adjust it before you start, again, maybe it's a real small seed we're running. So we move this down to 17 inches of vacuum. We save your vacuum levels from your previous field. So when you start a new one after this, you don't have to remember what it was before. We give you where you left it off. So we always save it by crop for you also. We also have built into this page a charts box. This chart box takes us to recommended vacuum settings for different sizes of seed and different speeds. So you kind of have an idea of where to start, or if you have a question, there's a lot of different tabs in here, depending on crop, the cell disk you're using, all those type of things are built in here as well. So if you want to see it bigger, the nice part about any picture, you press on the picture once, it makes it bigger. And then you can easily see that vacuum level as well. Hit my checkbox twice to get me back. Now I'm back to my pressures tab. If we go down in the lower right-hand corner, is our true depth hydraulic downforce settings. Of course, we have our 3 preset levels here, and then of course you can adjust it in 5-pound increments. What we are adjusting here in the lower right-hand corner is the amount of gauge wheel load we want those gauge wheels to carry. Some people in the industry use the terminology of margin. So we are setting gauge wheel load. Of course, true depth hydraulic downforce is going to change every row individually and put up to 650 pounds of downforce down, or take up to 150 pounds of weight off the row unit to, again, maintain your setting here. Okay. If you have pneumatic down pressure, this is where that location would live as well. This is where you would say how much down pressure you want. So let's say you want 200 pounds of down pressure on a pneumatic system. This is where you would put that in there. And of course, the system will always maintain that level of downforce on the pneumatic side as well. So if you set it at 200, the system will automatically adjust to maintain 200 pounds of down pressure. I'd be remiss to talk about the fan controls as well, very similar to the closed loop control for pneumatic, and of course the closed loop control for hydraulic downforce, that all of the fan controls are closed loop as well. So for example, we have the vacuum set at 17 inches of vacuum. That vacuum's maintained. Whether the oil's cold, the oil gets warm, you slow the PTO down, speed the PTO up, we will automatically adjust the fans for you to maintain your vacuum setting. So just make it easier on you as you're going through the field, and of course compensating for oil temp changes, all those type of things as well. So I hit the checkbox, takes me back where I started. If we go down here to population, this is where you set the population you want to plant. So again, we have 3 options at the top. We have whole, which of course the whole planter's planting. You can see the target population here right now is set to 32.5. We do have presets down here that you can change the presets. So let's say I want a preset of 37.5. I can come down here, press and hold on the preset, and you can see that the preset is now saved to 37.5, for example. We also have the option for split to plan a different population on each half of the planter if you so choose. And we also have the by row population where you can set a different population on all the rows, or seed corn producers, you need, of course, a different rate on certain rows for male planting, or you need to shut off rows and again, leave skips depending on your pattern. You can do that here as well in the by row option. Okay, so by row, split, and whole. Okay. We go back to the checkbox, takes us back to our task setup page. The last one I want to touch on is the Maps tab. The Maps tab is where you would select, as you see on this box, boundary and all of your seed, fertilizer, or insecticide prescriptions. So when I press on that box, it takes me to the selector page. Okay, and again, in training mode, there's only one per feature. Again, by design, just to have one so you can kind of recognize and walk through the process. You can see in the lower left-hand corner where it says sort by nearest, it utilizes GPS location to bring the ones closest to you to the top of the list. That way you don't have to go, of course, search through the list of boundaries or prescription files. So in this case, we only have one. It's pretty easy to select. We're going to select this boundary file, and we're going to go to a seed prescription and select this seed prescription as well. So this is where we select them. I will go through where to upload them ahead of time towards the end when we get into the Manage tab. So I can show you how to import them from a USB. All right, so we'll walk through that later. So right now, we just have one. We selected a boundary, a seed prescription. We come back to our task setup. You now see that we have a checkbox next to boundary and seed prescriptions. And down here in the population box, it now says RX. And if we go back into the population box, now that RX is active, you can see we have the ability to set a GPS lost rate. So if GPS is lost as you're going through the field, this is what the planter will continue to plant. There's a secondary wheel speed sensor on the planter already that when you lose GPS, it'll automatically pick up that wheel speed and continue to plant. This would, of course, be the target population in that scenario. We also have over here an out of RX rate as well. I realize a lot of you guys have prescriptions that are probably made by somebody else, you know, the co-op, agronomist, whatever it may be. And maybe it's not quite the same size as the field you are planting. So, you know, a good example is at home, we cleaned out the fence row, we took down some trees. So the field's maybe a little wider than what that prescription map was built for originally. You can put an out of RX rate. So if, you know, the outside couple rows get outside the RX, it will continue to plant something on the outer edge. So that's what that out of RX rate is as well. A feature we added a couple years ago is this RX adjustment feature. So you can see over here, RX adjustment, it says 100%. If I go into edit, this allows me to change my rate zones from what the original was to something new. So for example, right now we have it set to 100%. Let's say I wanted to back that down a little bit and I want it to be 90%, or excuse me, 96% of what it was originally set to. Now we have the original, now we have the adjusted, and the adjusted rate is what the planter is going to plant to, all right, in these rate zones. Okay, so when I hit the checkbox here, takes us back to our RX tab. You can see it says 96% right here. If you want to see the rate zones, again, to confirm you have everything you want and it's laid out how you want it to be, we do have that show map feature down here at the bottom. Press on show map. It will tell you the rate zones and what rate it will plant, again, even after making that adjustment. So remember, we backed it down to 96%. Now it shows you what those rates will be with that adjustment of 96%. Okay. So again, just a nice option to see what it's changed to. We go back here to checkbox, take us back to RX setup. We go checkbox one more time. it takes us back to, again, where we started on the task setup page. So kind of a whirlwind, long-winded tour of task setup. Naturally, when you start to go through and do it consecutively for different fields, obviously it won't take that long, all right? Because once you get things dialed in, I'm sure there's a lot of consistency and similarity between tasks. But that's kind of a general layout of the task setup page. Really, once we're done with this page, we're ready to actually go to the plant screen and plant. So that's where we're headed next. In order to get to that point, if you, whoops, in the upper right-hand corner where it says plant, when you press on the plant tab, it takes us to the plant screen. Okay, so this is single screen mode. All right. This is a similar layout that we've had for a long time. All right. Again, Dell ruggedized tablet is the Blue Vantage display. So if you use one finger on the display, you use the whole map. Okay, you can see my white finger press in that green. If you use two fingers on the screen, you can pinch and zoom. Okay, pinch and zoom in on the map. And then over here on the left-hand side, once you got your zoom level, if you press center, it will center the icon into the center of the page as well. So let's walk through this page. All right, so at the very top, of course, we have a bar graph. Everything on the map is row by row mapping. So every row is mapped individually. And of course, you have a bar graph telling you performance of each row up here. You can see we are on a singulation page. So it's telling us planter-wide singulation. It is telling us skips and doubles, planter-wide as well, up here. This is also the map selector box. So right now we're selected or set on singulation. If I go up here and press on that singulation part, I now can select a different map layer. So let's say I want to select ground contact to see how my true depth hydraulic downforce is working. I'm going to select ground contact. It now turns into a ground contact map, ground contact bar graph, and of course my average ground contact for planter wide up here as well. If we go down on this right-hand side, we have our RX population, so you know what colors are what rates. Of course, it doesn't show up on a ground contact map, but if we go up here and select to population, now we can see our different colors for our prescription map as well. We have row detail information here. We then have our vacuum, bulk fill, and downforce performance over here. And then we have marker controls down here as well. So again, all Blue Vantage equipped planters do not use a fold box. Everything is integrated into the Blue Vantage display. So if I wanted a left marker, I'm going to highlight my left marker, operate my remote, and the left marker comes out. Okay. So these items over here are customizable. Okay. And you can see down here at the bottom, there's a kick out or two arrows to the left. If I press on that, it brings out really what I call a maximize option. So right now, they're kind of shrunk down. If I want to really see row detail, I can press on this expander, and now it has a more, really just more information and a larger box to view the row detail. Okay, you can see right now it's held on row 1, so only row 1 is getting looked at. If you press on scan, it will, of course, start to scan through the rows. So it will go to row 1, now it's on row 4, and it'll slowly tag one at a time as those rows come up. Okay, you have little arrows on each side here, so you can manually skip to a row. So let's say, row 17 was causing fits. I can immediately go to row 17 as well. And then it will go to hold, so you can focus on that row. Okay. I'll talk about how to customize those here in a second once we go through split screen, but just want to highlight this feature to make different options bigger. So if you want bigger view of your vacuum, so you have not only a gauge, but also a value, you can see that as well. If we go over here to the left-hand side, this, of course, is the legend for what we're looking at here. Since we're on population, It gives you high row, low row. Again, different colors for different population rates. Of course, you can see that because we're utilizing a prescription. There is a pencil icon right next to this, so you can go in and adjust the legend for, again, whatever population you so choose. By default, we kind of take your average population and split it, but you can manually adjust those to change the colors to whatever you so choose on here as well for different ranges. We go right above that where it says acres and miles per hour. This is where our bulk fill scale information lives as well. So if we press on this box, we get our left and right hand scale weights. We get our acres to empty based on that weight. And if you're using a boundary, we will tell you how many acres you have left in the boundary as well. So again, most right now, all blue drives come standard with bulk fill scales. And if we tap on this box again, it goes out of the way. Okay.
We have one question.
Yeah.
Kind of a personal question, I guess, but why does mine not show the RX population on the right?
Okay. So why does it not show the RX populations on the right like we have up here? Okay. So we can dive into it right now because you can change what you see on this right-hand side. Okay. And I'm gonna wait because I'll show you how to customize the right-hand side once we get to the dual screen. Ryan, I'll walk through that to show you it. Okay. So Zach will keep me in check and make sure I don't forget, but I'll show you why that's there versus maybe the one you have now because this is not the default location. So we'll get into that. And I'll walk through that. I just want to tie them both together. It'll make more sense here in a second. Okay. Of course, we have our center and field zoom here as well. So if I press on field zoom, naturally it just zooms to the outer edge of the field. This is only like a 5-acre field, so obviously not much to zoom to. But of course, realize you get in some larger fields, field zoom. A little more important, you can see where you've been, make sure you haven't missed any parts of the field as well. Of course, this is just GPS and implement switch just to tell you, hey, is the planter down or up? We keep rolling all the way to the top and we get under our bar graph. There is the shutoffs tab. If we press on shutoffs, this is to manually shut off sections going through the field. Okay, GPS wise, it's all row by row section control. Okay, so if you want to manually shut off sections for some reason, you added a waterway in the field and haven't had time to, make a new boundary file or whatever it may be, you can manually shut off the sections here. Okay, so just a manual control. Okay. Down here, you can also turn off the boundary file. So I use this feature, especially the first trip around a couple of the fields that I utilize at home because the exterior boundary isn't quite correct. Again, back to the moving the fence row, cutting some trees, all those type of things, you can get a little farther and you don't want that outside row to shut off. You can come up here and click on ignore boundary. You can see it changes on the screen. If I zoom in, a little bit on the Kinsey icon, you can see that the words or the boundary that was there is now dashes instead of a solid black line. So now, you go outside that boundary, the planter will continue to plant. Once you do your outside pass and you get your headlands done, we can come in here and press use boundary, and now you can see that it changes to dark black. So now it is active and will not plant through those locations. Okay, so that's the boundary use and ignore. The section control on off feature is to turn off automatic section control. So when you turn this off, the planter will plant all the time when you set the planter down. Okay, so instead of using previously planted area or boundaries, you can, again, shut it off so it plants all the time. That's what the section control on and off is. If we press on the check or the up arrows, we shrink that tab out of the way, and of course you get more real estate as well. If you have air adjust row cleaners on your planter, this is where the row cleaner adjustment tab lives. So if I press on cleaners, this is where I can make my adjustments. There, of course, is factory presets, light, medium, and heavy, and quick raise to raise them all the way up. So these are presets. You can see again the pencil icon. Anytime there's a pencil, it allows us to go in and edit something. So if I press on edit, it allows me to change my pressures, in this case, for our row cleaners. Okay, so we have, again, our medium setting. Let's say they're maybe a little too aggressive, so I'm going to reduce my pressure. Okay, so we can make those adjustments on the fly to, again, fine-tune residue wheel performance as well. And if I want that set as my medium setting, I can press and hold it. It is now my medium setting, and I can even name it something different. So you want to label it, corn on corn or no-till or something of that nature. You can do that as well.
Egg.
I'm going to press on my plant button and take me back to plant. We're back where we started. I hit my 2 up arrows to shrink my tab vertical and, of course, give me more space on the screen. Right? So kind of a walkthrough of the plant screen. This is single screen mode. All right, this is the same mode we've had for really since introduction back in 2019. To get to dual screen mode, like we talked about earlier, in the upper right-hand corner where it says plant, you can see this little icon up top here. You can see a big screen and then a split or dual screen piece. We press on plant once, and now we are in dual screen mode. Okay, so obviously we have 2 screens. You can see a similar layout to single screen mode as far as options. So you have, again, our markers, our fan controls, all of these things have really just moved to the top of the screen. Okay, our bar graph has moved to the bottom. Part of the reason for moving the bar graph to the bottom is you can see this bar graph icon in the middle center of the icon, or center of the screen. This is telling you that this bar graph is referencing this bar graph over here. So right now we're set to population really on both screens right now. Okay. If I want to see something different on this left-hand screen, if I press on, again, similar map selector we had on single screen mode, I want to watch ground contact percentage. Tap on that. This is now a ground contact map. Bar graph is still for this side. All right. If I come down here and select the tab on the left, now this is a bar graph for my hydraulic downforce as well. Okay, so this is a bar graph switcher. You can see the legend changes and the layout of the screen itself changes. Okay, so that's how we switch back and forth. You can see we can have different zoom levels. On the left-hand side, we're zoomed in pretty tight. On the right-hand side, we're zoomed a little farther away. Okay, same features where we can center the icon. We can change the zoom level if we want. So let's say we want to go really big. All right, to really see the whole field, you can do that. So different zoom levels on each side. And you still have legends, high row, low row, down here as well. Of course, we're kind of done planting the field already. He's driving through, so no data's coming up. But you can see the same information. Again, no different than the single screen mode. These are all active boxes. Okay, so we still have our shut off in our cleaners tab, markers, bulk fill vacuum. So again, we want to change our vacuum level. We tap right on that box and we come into the same page we saw with task setup. So I'm going to increase my vacuum, hit my checkbox here, and now my vacuums change up here. So these are all active boxes. And again, our miles per hour in acres, this is where our scale information lives. So very similar feel to single screen mode. It just gives you the ability, of course, to see 2 maps at the same time. At any time when you're driving through the field, you want to go back to single screen mode, you can simply tap on plant, and it will take you right back to single screen mode. Okay, you want to go back to dual screen, tap it again, back to dual screen. Okay.
Egg.
So again, once you update firmware to model year 25, this feature is built into Blue Vantage.
Egg. Egg.
We talked about how at the very top of the screen is very similar to single screen mode when it's on the right-hand side. Okay, it's over here on single screen. I talked earlier that these are customizable, what you see up here. So going back to Ryan's question earlier, if I go back to single screen mode, this is where you make that change. So we went through the kick out arrows here, again, to make it, make these widgets bigger, all right, easier to see. The pencil icon here is where you go in to change what widgets are viewed. All right, so if we press on the pencil icon, it takes us into our plant widget screen. You can see that this is single screen mode. This is dual screen mode. Okay, if you have followed along this whole time, you'll notice that your 1, 2, 3, and 4 is different than mine. All right, because we give you a default layout. But you can pick and choose, number one, where things are in the bars and what you want to see. Okay, so I have 4 things. You have maximum of 4 things to see. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to deselect all of the features. Okay, so these are all the widgets you can see. Right, so again, the first one I'm going to select is going to be our number 1 slot. So I'm going to say row detail is really important to me. I'm going to select row detail. So this is where it will show up on single screen mode. This is where it will show up on dual screen mode. The other one that's important to me is pressures. I want to know my vacuum, bulk fill, and the readout for ground contact. So this is what it will look like. I also use markers a lot, especially to start the field. So I want markers higher up there. And then lastly, preset populations. Okay, so if you're running a prescription map, this is where it will show you the rate zones. If you're not running a prescription map and you have presets for whole population, this is where those will show up. Okay, so you have 4. We have 4 selected. I hit my checkbox, and now you'll notice that my right-hand box over here is different than when we went in there. Okay, so we give you some flexibility to show different things, customize it to what's most important to you. So I talked about my populations. Again, I have my rate zones here. If I come up to my map selector, you'll notice again pencils next to all of these map selections. So if I want to change population, I'm going to hit the pencil next to population. Right now we're selected to RX map. What I really want to do is I don't want to use my RX anymore. I just want to use a set population as I'm driving through the field. I'm going to come over here and select whole, and then I'm going to hit my checkbox to select it. And now we are on whole population. And you'll notice down here that my presets are easily accessible here. So if I'm driving through the field, and again, I know I have a poor spot that I want to reduce my population, I can simply press on 32,000 preset, and now my population is changed to 32,000 as well. Okay. If we go to dual screen, again, you'll notice the widgets at the top have changed exactly like that preview that we just went through. So customizable as a whole, allows you to kind of pick and choose what you want to see on the plant screen. Again, questions on the plant screen, feel free to type those in the chat. We can always review and walk through those as well. All right, so we kind of walked through plant screen, layout, population, widget changes, all those type of things. A couple other things I want to talk about reference to planting function and features is how do I adjust my section control performance in Blue Vantage. That feature lives under settings on the right-hand side of the screen. If I go into settings, a couple things I want to talk about on this page. The first one is the outer rows locked feature at the top. Okay. I talked about earlier that all of Blue Vantage's section control is row by row section control. If you're utilizing a lower quality GPS, you have a lot of hilly terrain, whatever it may be, sometimes due to that, it is the outside row shuts off. You know, it's on and off because GPS accuracy, again, how good we are at driving, if we're hand driving, all those type of things, you can turn outer rows locked on. And what that will do is take the outside two rows. So in this example, rows 1 and 2, rows 23 and 24 will be locked together. So those two rows will shut off together. All right. So again, it allows you a little more variability in GPS and driving as far as that goes. If you know a lot of hills, terraces, etc., we can compensate for that by going outer rows locked. So just want to let you know that that's up here at the top. We then go into replant. Again, that feature is on all the time. Replant is dictated by your lower alarm threshold for population. We default it to 70%, so anything less than 70% of your target population shows up as red. You get an alarm, and again, when you drive over top of that, again, we will automatically turn the meters on and fill in that area as a whole. So that's where the replant feature is. We go down here to my planting start item. So this was from, these settings were from yesterday. So let me reset these to default of 00, right? And that's where we start out of the box, okay? And what I would do is we start out of the box, we do our headland areas, and we come out of our headland. So you can see we have planting start and planting stop, okay? So planting start would be coming out of an already planted area. And we tried to make it very easy to understand, okay, we're in an already planted area. I'm driving this way. We can see our directional travel this way. So we're going out into unplanted area. So our planter's down. We come out of an unplanted area and, you know, we drive out 20, 30 feet. We stop, we go back, we dig in the dirt and try and find that first seed that's turned on. And let's say in this example that the seed is coming on too late. Okay, there is a gap from where I want the first seed to start. What you do is measure that distance. All right, so let's say it's 5 inches. Where the seed is now versus where I want the seed to be is 5 inches too late. I simply come in here to this arrow because we want it to go closer to the already planted area and say 5 inches. Start earlier from where the 0 setting was, and that's it. Okay, we make it very easy to do that. We compensate for different travel speeds. So let's say you're starting out that first day, and you came out of the headland and you were doing, let's say, 3 miles an hour. Okay, we did our check, we made our adjustment. Now it's been a little bit, and now we're getting a little more confident in ourselves, or we got a nice efficient field to run in, and now we're driving 6 or 7 miles an hour in or out of the headland. We will compensate for that different travel speed to ensure that your section control is correct, even at that large distance or large speed change for section control. So we take care of all of that for you to provide a very consistent shutoff line. Same story on planting stop. Of course, we're just adjusting the other way coming into a planted area. Again, same story. We're going to drive into the headlands, go back, dig, find out where that last seed was planted, and again, make our adjustments. So again, let's say it's planting too far. It is overlapping too much. We want it to be shorter, measure that distance you want it to be, and say, hey, I want it to stop earlier, 6 inches, and you're good to go. All right, so we take care of all the background calculations, all those type of things for you to provide a consistent shutoff line. our section control is also enhanced where if you look at a split row configuration where the front rows, of course, are ahead of the rear rows, as you come into that previously planted area, the front rows will shut off first. The rear rows will come in and shut off second. So we compensate for all the different layouts of the rows. So your shut off is always consistent, smooth, and the same all the way down the toolbar, no matter where those rows live. So truly make it easy to adjust in the field.
Egg.
Quick wrap. We have a few questions.
Yeah.
One question is a clarification. Outer rows locked on or GPS.
Okay. So outer rows locked. So at the very top of the screen, the use case for outer rows locked would be if you're utilizing a WAS signal, is probably the most widely used use case, and you are on a lot of contours. Okay, so a lot of hills, or you're planting around the hill. A lot of times WAS, just again, it's a WAS signal, sometimes can cause that outside row to turn on and off. All right, just because of drift, how the tractor's driving, and of course the quality of the WAS and the quality of the receiver. If you're running really any sort of prescription-based GPS service, don't see the need to really use outer rows locked. Again, there's a lot of variables that factor into that, but just want to make you aware, poor quality GPS, a lot of contours, sometimes that row will get closer to the guest row of the previous pass, and it will turn the row on, shut the row off when really it's, let's say, 24 inches away, just because of that GPS accuracy. This allows you to get way over that next pass and help reduce gaps in the field is kind of the core feature of that outer rows locked item.
Our next question goes back to our dual screen.
Okay.
What do you recommend to put on the second screen for the three options of ground contact, applied force, and sensed force?
Okay, so options for the downforce selection. So I'm going to go back to plant. Okay. And you can see on my left-hand side on the screen, I still have, ground contact over here. This is the one I spend the most time on, ground contact percentage. Okay, so for me, I spend a lot of time on ground contact. The reason is, this is how I'm going to make my decision on adjustment as well. So right now it's in auto, 150 pounds of gauge wheel load, okay, or sensed force. What I'm going to do is set it at that 150. I'm going to start planting. So let me zoom in on this guy. And actually, if I go to single screen mode, it'll be easier for you to see online. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Okay. All right. So I'm in ground contact percentage. I realize this guy has planted it already, but I'm looking at the bar graph here and my average ground contact percentage. All right. And if we go back to dual screen mode, my bar graph selector is on ground contact. So I have the same information down here. I want my average ground contact to be in that high 90s range. So 98, 99, close to 100. It should bounce a little bit around. Okay. We always want the average to be 100, 98 to 100, somewhere in there. We never want it pegged at 100% all the time. That would tell me that we have too much downforce, which of course can cause issues with sidewall compaction and those type of things. Okay. So I come into ground contact, I start planting my field. I'm watching my bar graph down here. I'm in auto 150 mode, and let's say it's 92 and 93 and a lot of yellows going through the field set to 150. What I would do, a lot of ways to get to changing downforce, but I would come up here and click on my ground contact window. I would increase this setting in 5 or 10 pound increments at a time. So I'm going to change this to 160. I'm going to go back, hit the checkbox, and watch what happens. Does my bar graph for true depth get a little more, or my ground contact for true depth get a little more consistent? Is my average closer to that 98 to 100%? Once it is, then I'm going to go back and check my depth in the field. Okay. Just because you have 100% ground contact does not mean your depth is correct. Okay. It means that the wheels are carrying this in our case, 160 pounds of weight on them. It does not mean that the depth is correct. And some guys are like, how can that be? The gauge wheels are setting your depth. Why is that not true? Or why would my depth not be correct? The big item when it comes to the depth setting or depth control is if you have a lot of residue on top of the field, or you're planning into no-till conditions, or conditions where you're utilizing a chopping corn head where there's a big mat of stuff on the field, those wheels are riding over top of that mat of stuff. Okay, so if that mat of stuff is 2 inches or an inch thick and you want it 2.5 inches deep, again, that downforce is not going to slam that row unit in and compress that residue. You might have to, again, make a depth adjustment change, not a downforce adjustment change, to, again, get your correct depth. So if that's the case, you go out and you realize that it's not the depth you want, you make a depth adjustment, then come back here and start that same process of checking my ground contact on my map, and then again making adjustments from there. But my ground contact percentage is where I would start. It's always interesting to me as you get comfortable and you get your ground contact percentage in there. Applied force is always an interesting map to look at. Again, because true depth provides basically eyes behind you going through the field, okay? And the neat part about it is it would show you, or can show you, issues in the field as well. And a good example is a customer was going through, watching maps as he's going through the field from ground contact to applied force, and realized that one of the rows on the map was a different color as he's driving through the field. So on that applied force map, one row was a different color. He's like, why the heck is that row different? Well, he went out and looked at that row unit and realized that the closing wheel spring had broken. And of course would apply different downforce on that row if that spring was broke. So again, kind of provided the eyes in the back of the field. And if you look at the map that's there now, you can see that orange stripe right by the K and the Kinsey, which is a pre-made grain cart track through the field. You can see that we had to apply a lot more force here in order to keep that row unit in the ground because of those hard conditions. So ground contact is where I'd start. Focus on that one, get it set. Applied force isn't a bad one to look at. Every now and then it can show you other issues in the field, like that closing wheel spring broken in that customer scenario. Okay.
I'm gonna go.
All right, so we went through section control adjustment. I want to walk through the other icons on the right-hand side of the tablet. So actions, the next one down, actions is where we're going to go through and do our fold functions. Again, no fold box for any Blue Vantage planter. So you're going to walk through that feature of unfolding the planter. You press and hold on this icon, operate your remote. Once that function's done, you let off, go to the next one. Same thing, press and hold, operate your remote, etc., etc. So that's where the fold and unfold lives. One of the features that we've added also for this year is the ability to adjust how aggressive the weight transfer system is on the planter. Okay, so if you have an 05 series planter or later, really second year 05, we added active hydraulic weight transfer to the planter. So what that does is take the weight in the tank and increases the weight transferred to the wings based on how much seed is in the tank. In certain cases, especially on 5670, our new lift and pivot frame, if you have fertilizer as well, you of course have fertilizer tanks on the wings. Some guys want to reduce how much weight is sent to the wings, especially when the fertilizer tanks are full, because you have, again, that extra weight on the wing. So you have the ability to adjust how much pressure, max pressure, is out to the wings, all right, actively, right? So again, just another feature we added to enhance active weight transfer. Okay. The other thing I want to show you on the Actions tab at the very top of the screen, this is where if you have pneumatic closing wheels, the ability to adjust lives here. Okay, so if we go to closing wheels, this is our closing wheel setting. So again, we have light, medium, and heavy. You notice we can set the closing wheel pressure on the center section different than the wings. We tried to make it easy to understand where to start, okay? Because realize that, again, on our 5000 series, it's the first time we've introduced air adjust closing wheels. You notice the picture down here has 4 notches on it. This is just like the 4 notches on your mechanical spring arm. Okay, so a lot of guys are like, I decided to go with pneumatic closing. Where do I start? Well, if you're used to starting in notch 2 on springs, we're going to have this arrow be right next to that notch 2 or 80. Okay? If I want to increase it, the nice part about pneumatic is you can do in 10-pound increments. So you can go, again, notch, I'm going to go 5-pound increments. 80, 85, 90, 95, and then 100. Okay? So this would be notch 4 on mechanical springs. The item with pneumatic, though, is you can go higher than notch 4 with pneumatic down pressure. So you actually can get more down pressure on pneumatic than you can with the mechanical springs. But just wanted to show that screen for those of you that might have air closing wheels as an option on your machine. Okay. Last thing, or another thing I want to go down, if we go down to the next tab and go to the health page, go to health. Really just want to talk about health from the simple fact of this is where all of the information really on the planter lives if you're having troubles with it. Okay, if there's something happening, something's not working, it will show up as red on this screen. So for example, if you have a row that's acting up, let's say row 19, this is everything you ever want to know about row 19. All right, mainly used for technicians, but really something good for you guys to be aware of. On here, if anything shows up in red, you can click on it and it will give you the information down here and highlight in red what is wrong, so you kind of know where to start. The other nice feature, if you go into this diagnostics tab, diagnostics in the middle. Oops. In the diagnostics tab, in the upper left corner, you see where it says workflows. Okay. You click on workflows. This gives you a bunch of troubleshooting guides to help you in the field. Okay, and there's vacuum settings, there's population rates, any issue, not every issue, but a lot of issues built in here to help you. Okay, so kind of scroll down, we're at a part where maybe you have a bad hydraulic downforce link. If you tap on that, it gives you what the reading should be for that row. So confirm the voltages are in this range. If you hit the arrow to the right, it says, hey, maybe go out and look and make sure there's nothing stuck, blocked, or attachments hitting anything. The next one is look at the connection. We give you a picture of that connection to look at in the field. If we press right on any picture in Blue Vantage, it will make it bigger for you. So it's easier to see and you have a better indication of what that connector looks like in the row unit as well. So just let you know about the diagnostics that are in there. Again, it lives on the health page as well. And again, anytime you have an issue, come into this screen. Again, anything that's not working will show up as red. Again, can go in diagnostics, maybe figure it out without having to call the dealer, get you up and running quicker as well.
Good question, Brad.
Yeah.
Regarding weight transfer. With weight transfer, where is a good place to start for settings with a 16-row planter, no fertilizer? All strip till, non-freshened strips. What is the best method to ensure it is in the correct setting?
Sure. So if we go back to settings where that downforce pressure lives, settings. Actions. Sorry. Go back to actions. So we can see we have our 3 presets here. I would always leave it on maximum to start. Okay. And maximum would be, again, the factory recommended setting with active hydraulic weight transfer. The only time I've ever adjusted it myself personally is sometimes on 12-row machines, because there's only one wing wheel out there in very soft conditions. It can tend to bury that row or that wheel arm. Again, if it's work ground and very soft and mellow, I've gone to medium, again, just to help reduce the amount of weight out to the wing. In your case, being strip till application, I would leave it at maximum and see how it goes, because those tires will be riding in a non-tilled area. So that should be a very firm soil condition. And then, of course, the downforce will take care of everything on that row unit going through it. The only time, again, I would adjust it is if you're looking behind you, you come back on the next pass and you can see, maybe it's berming too hard on the outside wings. Probably not a bad idea to maybe adjust it down to medium, but mainly used in tilled conditions, really focused on the 12-row size in like a 5900 or 5670 planters with liquid fertilizer on the wings. When I ran it last year with fertilizer, I usually ran it on medium or low or minimum in this case, because there was so much weight. In our conditions, it was super mellow last year, and I wanted less on the wings to kind of help reduce the berming when that row was not only turning on the ends, but more importantly, in the end rows or picking up and backing into the corners, etc. I would go to the medium, but always recommend starting on the maximum first and then go to medium second after you've kind of seen how the tire tracks are behind you, how it reacts to your tillage conditions. But Clayton, with yours being strip till, the tires will be running on some good firm soil. You should be able to be okay in the maximum setting. But again, see how it goes once we get to the spring. Again, maximum or medium is where I would go. Honestly, wouldn't really use minimum unless in that 5670 scenario where you have liquid tanks on the wings. And of course, all of that overhung weight with split rows obviously changes a lot of the dynamic of the planter itself. Okay. I'm gonna go. All right, so we went through plant actions. We talked about the health page. Since we're in actions, I want to show you a couple features that are in the display to help you clean out the planter, do some diagnostics ahead of time, maybe do some meter testing, those type of features. And in order to get to those, I need to stop my planting task. So I'm going to press home and I'm going to say yes, go home, go back to my home page. Under actions, again in the upper right corner, on the left-hand side, the other things I want to show and talk about are flush. This flush feature here. If we go under flush, what flush allows you to do is stationary run the planter. Okay, so since I'm in demo mode, I need to put the toolbar up. So the toolbar is raised. I then can come in here under seed, and we have flush for seed, fertilizer, and insecticide. Okay, so the flush feature, if I turn seed on, it's going to turn all of your meters on, and it will stationary run all of the meters to clean out the meters. All right, if you don't want to vacuum all of them out, you can, again, turn them on, let them run. Of course, you see we can turn each side vacuum on if you so choose, or you of course can turn the bulk fill on and blow the seed out that way and really just clean out the entire planter.
I'm gonna go.
You can see the rows are flashing blue. That's indicating that the sensors are seeing seed. When you stop seeing the blue flashing, that means there's no more seed coming out and it's cleaned out. Okay, so that's flush on seed. Okay, really commonly used is the fertilizer feature. So at the end of the season, you're cleaning out the tank, you run the flush feature. Same story. Once we turn it on, everything turns on. So rows, pump, all the shutoff valves, because again, fertilizer is controlled row by row as well. You see the rows flashing blue. Again, as you continue to pump, once fertilizer stops coming out, the lights will stop flashing. So again, handy if you're changing products, and of course, real handy at the end of the season when you're flushing everything out, adding antifreeze to it, all those type of things. Okay, and of course, we have the feature for insecticide as well. Okay, so that's the flush feature.
I'm gonna go.
If you go down to seed performance, press on seed performance. This is the built-in test stand mode built into the display itself. So you can see at the top, right now we're selected on corn. We have 32,000 as our target population. We want 1,000 seed test, and we want to simulate 8 miles an hour. Okay. You can then choose which rows you want to test. Okay, so we're going to test, rows 1, 2, and 3, or 1, 2, and 4.
I'm gonna go.
I then can choose ready. This is what I want to test. I can turn my vacuum on.
I'm gonna go.
I can hit prime, so it primes those meters.
I'm gonna go.
And then I'm going to press run test. And what it will do is it'll start those meters turning and give you the meter performance. Okay, so it will do skips, doubles, COV, RPM, and spacing on here. Okay, so we can hit prime,
I'm gonna go.
run test, and again, that row will just sit there and run. All right, and then you can watch it live, how it's performing as well.
I'm gonna go.
Okay. This is for both any blue drive, so true rate or true speed, you get seed performance. The next one down, mainly for our true speed guys, where it says delivery tube health right below seed performance. If I press on delivery tube health, I can come in here and select all the rows and press run test. And what this will do is run the delivery tubes. All right, it says ensure the meters are tipped up, so you're going to have the meters vertical. And you're going to hit run test. The delivery tubes will run, and we will check and make sure that there's no missing flights, there's no bent flights, and the belt tension is correct for all of our true speed applications. Okay, so if you're like, well, what the heck how do I change belt tension? Well, if we press on the icon that says belt tension, it tells you what to look at. Okay, it gives you a picture, and again, if you press on that picture,
I'm gonna go.
you can see what we're talking about.
I'm gonna go.
So make sure the layout, direction, how to tension it by changing and loosening the Phillips screw, all those type of things. So we help you in the field. Again, make sure all your delivery tubes are correct by running the delivery tube health feature as well.
I'm gonna go. I'm
Okay.
gonna go. I'm 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 gonna go.
Go back to home.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go.
One thing I want to talk about as well, a question that was brought up in yesterday's group was about prime jumpstart features, or how do I start my planter when I back into a corner? Okay. So we're going to go back into our plant screen.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna
We're
go.
going to add a new task just for this example,
I'm
and I'm going to go to plant. Okay. So right now I'm going to open up my window here so you can see what position the toolbar is in.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna
So
go.
the toolbar is up. Okay.
I'm gonna
Anytime the toolbar is up,
go. I'm gonna
the
go.
icon for prime will show up on the screen. Okay, so when you come into a task, The fans will turn on, and of course we have to prime our seed meters. Okay. So in this case, we're going to come down, we're going to press prime. It's going to prime the meters. It's going to turn the disc 1 1/4 revolution. There will be about 3 seeds that will fall out the bottom of the meter. Okay. Bottom of the meter by design. All right. If the planter does not see seeds after you press prime, them couple seeds, we will alert you and say, hey, row 4 didn't prime. So that way you can go back, check that row. You know, maybe we forgot to hook up the vacuum hose or something of that nature. You can go back and check that row, make sure it's working correctly, and then prime it at the row, because of course every row has its own manual run button on that row unit. So you can press and hold the run button. It will run the meter, run the delivery tube, all those type of things, and then of course reprime the meter itself. So that's prime. Planter is up. Even if you're moving or not, prime will come up. Okay, anytime the planter is raised. Okay, so in order to show you jumpstart, I turn GPS off. Okay, so you can see on the screen we have a red slash through the GPS icon. So we don't have GPS now, but again, that's just to show you the jumpstart feature. Okay, so we prime the meters. If you set the planter down and you are not moving, you can see that that icon has now turned into jumpstart. Okay? So when do I use jumpstart? The best thing to use, or when to use jumpstart, is when there is no planted crop behind you. Okay, so I'm starting a field. I've backed into the corner. All right, right before I'm ready to start. Naturally, we want to back into the neighbor's field, so there's definitely no gap on my side. Right, we're going to back all the way in. We set the planter down right before we start planting, or we start moving. Right before we let off the clutch, I'm going to press jump start. You're going to start moving. As soon as the planter picks up GPS speed, you can see jump start has gone away. So pressing jump start starts the meters turning at 2 miles an hour to help reduce the startup gap when you're starting from a dead stop. When you're driving through the field and you stop to pick up something, check depth, etc., and now we're ready to take back off again, I would pick up the planter, back up 5, 7, 8 feet, set the planter down, take off, and let section control do the work for you for turning on the rows. It will provide a more clean, smooth transition line. It'll be a lot more accurate, and of course help reduce any bunching of seed as well. So no planted crop behind you, use jump start. If there's planted crop behind you, back into that planted crop, take off, and let jump start do its, or section control do its thing.
You have a question from Kevin?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a speed limit while in jump start?
As far as a tractor speed limit, there's no limit. It's set to 2 miles an hour by default. But no, as soon as you take off, and anytime we get any sort of GPS speed, GPS is going to take over. So there's no speed limit while in jump start. No. Again, just we're going to take it or utilize it when there's no planted crop behind us as a whole. So no speed limit. No.
So if you drive faster than 2 miles per hour in jump start, what happens?
Jump start is active until we see GPS speed. Okay, so if you press jump start and you take off to 4 miles an hour, as soon as we see that speed, we're going to transition to the GPS speed, and jump start no longer active. Okay, so if I press jump start, we watch our progress bar. It's 2 mile an hour, 2 mile an hour. I take off in the tractor. Tractor's doing 5 mile an hour. We're using the 5 mile an hour speed. So no limit. Again, it's just as soon as we get the GPS speed from the GPS receiver, jump start is no good.
So if you go 5 miles per hour while in jump start, population will be a light.
Again, jump start is only active if we don't see speed. So if you take off right away up to 5 miles an hour, jump start's not active. We will transition the meter RPM to 5 mile an hour. So good example, if you press jump start and you dump the clutch and take off like Zach drives really quick and hard, there might be a spot where it's a little gappy because you're driving that hard. But again, as soon as GPS speed comes in, we're ready to rock and roll. All right. And we're using that speed. So you have to take off really hard in order for that to cause a gap or low population. Yep. If you don't use jump start at all, okay, some guys are like, you know what? I don't want to deal with, remember, pressing the button and all those type of things in the corner. That's perfectly fine. I would always ensure that we're slow to start off, and you expect approximately a 2-foot gap from when you set the planter down and started to where that first seed is. So as long as you're aware of that, it's no big deal, but just be aware of what jump start's used for and the application for it as well.
And another question, where do I add GPS settings, demo messages, etc., and what should they be?
Okay, all of the GPS settings and message rates are set on whatever GPS receiver you are using. Okay, there's a good instruction guide that comes with the Blue Vantage display because we provide a lot of the T and Y cables as part of the Blue Vantage package to connect to your existing GPS receiver. I mean, you kind of have the standard VTG, GGA, RMC, and ZDA messages turned on. Ideally, 10 hertz is the minimum for your position and speed message rate. So VTG and GGA, ideally 10 hertz. Your time and date, that can be 1 hertz. That's fine. But again, good instruction part of the Blue Vantage to kind of walk you through what it is, depending on if you're on a deer or a case or an ag leader. We walk through that in the instruction sheet for those messages, but that's all set on whatever GPS receiver you're using. We're really just reading it into Blue Vantage. So we're not sending any messages on the Blue Vantage side.
And how often do you need to prime? Every new field?
Good question. So prime, anytime you go out of a task and start a new task. So as soon as you start a new field, you're going to prime. The best way to think about it, anytime the vacuum fans are shut off, you have to do a prime function. Naturally, because the seeds are going to fall off that disc when the vacuum fans shut off. So anytime the vacuum fans go off, prime. If you never shut the fans off ever during that field, you never have to prime ever again. So really, when the fans shut off, prime needs to be used, of course, to load the disc as a whole. Yep.
I'm gonna go.
Okay, let's go to home. Will yes go home?
I'm gonna go.
I'll shrink this out of the way. And I want to get into the Manage tab on the home screen. So in Manage, in the bottom center of this page, this is where we're going to go to manage data, import prescriptions, boundary files, those type of things. So right here, you have all of the fields that I've planted in demo mode yesterday and today. One thing you'll notice on the right-hand side over here is you have the ability to edit that task after the fact. So if you want to change the name or anything of that nature, you can do that after the fact. There's also a view box next to it. So when you press view, whoops.
I'm gonna go.
When you press view, what that does, well, I didn't plant the field. Okay, let me go to this guy.
I'm gonna go.
If I go to view to a field that I've actually planted, you can see all of the different map layers here. So right now I'm on an applied force map. I can come up here and press layer, and let's say I want to see singulation. How did singulation work? I can see a map of singulation. So you can look at the history of all of your fields without being connected to the planter itself. This all lives in the tablet. So you can take the tablet out, take it into the office, and then look at history of all of your maps, etc. On the right-hand side over here, we also provide this feature called Report.
I'm gonna go.
If we press on Report, we generate a PDF report that you can export and print out with all of the information from that field. So for example, it gives you a simple cover page of, grower farm field, the products, rates, acres, all those type of things, and then all of the maps. So population map, singulation map, products, fertilizer, all those features are put into this report that you can export out and just have for reference. Okay, so kind of a nice built-in feature into the Blue Vantage display. If you're exporting data using a USB drive and you're taking it, via USB instead of the connections thing we talked about earlier, to do all of this crop year, we're going to select 2025, and you can see we selected all of them. I only have 6 total. And then over here where it says export, it's blacked out right now because I don't have a USB plugged into the tablet right now. But once you put a USB in there, you can then select export, and it will export all of your log data to the USB, and then you can take it to whichever FMIS system you are using for data management. Once you export the data from this page, we never erase the data. All right, so the data stays on here until you physically delete it. Okay, so you can have, again, multiple years of data saved on the tablet. Okay.
I'm gonna go.
Up here on the left-hand side, under the Names tab, this is where we can manually enter names. Okay, so again, doing some pre-configuration, pre-setup, you can come in here and enter all your grower, farm, and field information here without being connected to the planner. We also have a counters feature where you can add different counters. Kind of think of it like the trip meter in your car. Let's say you wanted to have a counter that was for, let's say, vac seals. So if we say seals, okay, and we hit the checkbox, and this is a maintenance thing. Okay, so you can see we have it on and counting. So anytime you're planting, this will accumulate acres. So you'll know, if your seals are wore out, you'd be like, you know what, how many acres do I have on those? You have this seal counter. A lot of guys like it for split rows to see how many acres are on the push rows versus the pull rows. All those type of things. So you can make this make counters here. Products tab, exactly that. This is where you can enter in products ahead of time. So if you want to add fertilizer name, type in all your hybrids, you can do that from this page. The basic reports item, this is really just a simple crop report. Okay, so for 2025, view. This creates a report by crop. Okay, so if you want to know how many acres you planted of corn in 2025, in my case, it was 35.3, and then it just breaks it down by grower, farm, and field as well. So kind of a nice summary report. So if you wanted to know how many acres you had under this grower, it tells you. How many acres under this farm, it tells you, and then how many fields, etc. So simple reports, again, that you can export out to, again, to have and just print out if you so choose.
Okay. Connected to a mobile hotspot, will it auto export tasks when done?
It won't auto export the task once you close it. No, it will do it really every 30 minutes, if I recall. It will send it out, or you can manually send them out as well. If we go back to this task page up here, if you're connected to a hotspot, at the top of your task list, there is a quick sync button up here that you can press, and it will auto sync for you. So you can send it at any time. That way we're just not dinging your Wi-Fi all the time to send it. So you will know when everything is uploaded when you're connected to the cloud because the cloud box has a check. Okay. So the question was, do they auto sync when connected to Wi-Fi? The short answer is yes, but if you want to force it quicker, you can press the sync button on the top. But normally, I want to say it's every 30 minutes or 15 minutes, we will auto sync for you. If, again, you want to manually do it every time, you can hit sync at any time when you're connected to Wi-Fi, and we will send it to the cloud automatically.
Question that we got yesterday as well. If you delete all your task data, it doesn't delete your field names and seed data as well, does it?
So the question was, when I export data, so if I export my task information and then delete them, we're trying to clean up for the next year, does it delete your field names and seed data? And the answer is no. All of that information stays in there. We just delete the log data or task information off. All grower farm fields, all hybrids will stay in there until you manually delete them. Yep, they stay in there.
And one other thing, a request to read the questions louder. Another thing you guys can do is open up the chat tab and you'll be able to read the questions as well.
All good. I'll do a better job of saying the question as well. Yep.
We do have a question regarding jumpstart again. Do you want to go back and take that, or would you rather wait here after we get through this section?
Let's wait through this and then we'll come back to that guy. Yep. So we talked about basic reports. Also want to get into prescription and boundary files. This is where you're going to import prescriptions and boundaries. All right. So once you click on this item, you can see down here, there's an import button. So when you put a USB into the tablet, this of course will highlight. You're going to select import. Of course, I can't do it because we're in training mode. But when you press import, it'll bring up all of your files. You can hit select all, press import, and it'll bring them into this list. And again, in training mode, you can see there is just 3 built into training mode. So this is where they would live. Again, these, similar to what we've talked about before, from the fact that once you import prescriptions and boundary files, they show, they will stay on the display until you manually delete them. Okay, so every year, again, you want to come and clean them up. You can sort, if you want to say, I just want to clean up all my seed prescriptions. Okay, granted, there's obviously none imported in training mode, but then you could select them all from last year, delete them, and then bring all your new ones into this window. Okay, so under manage, this is where you would import those features. Okay.
Can you show how to change a SHP file from Op Center to KML?
That is actually not something that's done on the Blue Vantage display. That's something done in Op Center. Again, we can use standard shape files. It doesn't need to be a KML. Really, the biggest difference between a shape file and a KML file is the fact that the KML just brings more information with it, meaning it brings grower, farm, field, and the variety in with KML. But we can use basic shape files also. It just doesn't have that information coming with it. So that process done through John Deere Operations Center, not done in Blue Vantage as a whole. So kind of a separate item as a whole. Yep.
In John Deere Operations Center, I have internal boundaries, waterways.
Yep.
Should those be set up as passable or impassable for Blue Vantage?
Yep. Great question. So the item was, I have boundaries in John Deere Operations Center. Should the internal ones, waterways, etc., be set as passable or impassable? We want those to be set to impassable for the Blue Vantage display. So we ensure that, of course, Blue Vantage shuts off when those guys come in. So internal boundaries from Deere set up as impassable. Yep. All right, let me go to my item here. Let's go back to your jumpstart question. What was the jumpstart question?
So the jump start question, in Jumpstart, will the planter take over planting at the proper speed versus the 2 mile per hour when it gets a GPS speed or gets a tractor speed, assuming no GPS is connected yet?
I might have to read that one again.
It's just a little ways up above the hot spot.
Okay, so the question was, in Jumpstart, will the planter take over planting at the proper speed versus 2 miles an hour when it gets a GPS speed or a tractor speed? Yes. So we're utilizing Jumpstart speed until it gets a speed from the external wheel that's on it. So we have a secondary speed source built into every Blue Vantage display. So the Jumpstart is just simulating a speed until it gets a speed, whether that be the wheel speed or a GPS speed. We will then transition to that one. So really, Jumpstart is only to get those meters turning to help reduce any startup gap. As soon as it gets a speed, GPS or that wheel speed sensor on the planter, it takes over and continues to do that speed until we go back to 0 again. And then again, we can utilize that button if you so choose. So, yep, good question. Okay, let's go into, so we got through manage. I want to talk about Blue Connect. Okay, we talked about it earlier today, just where that lives, what that does, and talk about some integration of linking your John Deere Operations Center or your Agfinity account. So in order to get there, I have to go out of training mode, all right, which is fine. I just want to let you know what's happening. So I'm going to go into settings and I'm going to turn training mode off. Okay, so now I'm just like a Blue Vantage out of the box, all right, just like you would have at home when you turn training mode off. So we go back into settings. Now we can see Blue Connect is highlighted down here. Okay. So we have Blue Connect. This is where we would connect it to a Wi-Fi. All right, so if I go to configure, this is no different than Wi-Fi on your phone. We turn Wi-Fi on, and of course, it shows me all of the Wi-Fi sources close here at Kinsey, so our internal Wi-Fis. Once you connect to the Wi-Fi source, if I go back, I can change the name of my display if you so choose. Obviously handy with customers that are using shared coverage mapping, so you know which display did what in the field. All right, this is just a default tablet username. Okay? And then you have this account information. All right, so in order to have or utilize shared coverage mapping, linking Blue Connect to a Operations Center or Agfinity account, or to use the screen share feature, which is down here, that remote support part, you have to have a Blue Connect account. All right, so we can come in here to configure, and then we can enter in our email and password. If you don't have an account, you can create an account directly from the tablet once you're connected to Wi-Fi. This is nothing unique to us. It's no different than creating an account with anybody else. You're going to put an email in there, a password, confirm your password, and then you'll get a confirmation email sent to the email that you have in here. Okay? Once that's set in and we configure it, it really takes a matter of 10 seconds to do that. Then your sign-in status goes in. We enter in our login data. Your email will come up here and say, hey, we're connected, and we're good to go. Okay, that's it. So it's very easy to do on Blue Vantage. Okay. Another shout out for the Wi-Fi and the software update. If you don't want to do anything with Blue Connect, I would still recommend you make a make an account, especially for the screen share feature. But if you don't want to do anything with it, you can still connect to Wi-Fi. And anytime you connect to Wi-Fi, no matter if you have a Blue Connect account or not, it will automatically go out and look for the latest software update. So I just talked about, there's one that just came out yesterday to, again, fix a erroneous alarm. We'll automatically check for the update. We'll recognize the update, and you say, yes, I want to download. It will download, update the tablet, and then you're ready to rock and roll. Right? So that's Blue Connect on the tablet side of things. Okay? You also have the feature piece for connecting farm management data, which kind of talks about it down here at the bottom. Right? So very simple on the Blue Vantage display, but you can set this up on the Kinsey website as well. So we're going to transition to the Kinsey website. I just want to show you kind of what that looks like as a whole. So, so I'm on Kinsey.com. In the upper right-hand corner, you see where it says Blue Connect. So we press on Blue Connect, and I'm already logged in, of course, because I logged in yesterday. So let me do this. Let me sign out. Okay. So when you go to the Blue Connect account, it'll come here to this page. All right. So again, you can sign up to create an account right from here. It'll be the same account you use with your Blue Vantage tablet when you log in as well. So I'm going to sign in, and it comes here. All right. You can see how many tasks, total acres, all that type of thing here. And this is where you would also initiate screen share. So on the tablet, when you saw the screen share piece, when you press on screen share, it gives you a code. The person on the other end, again, on a tablet, computer, whatever, he would press screen share and then type in the 6-digit code, press start viewing, and then we can view the tablet. Okay, so that's where the screen share feature is. If I go back to home, if I go down to settings, there's an option for connections right here. If I go into connections, this is where I would connect to my Ag Leader Agfinity account or my John Deere Operations Center account. And as you can see now, I'm already connected to Ag Leader Agfinity. We have the green check here. Let's say I want to connect to my John Deere Operations Center account. Okay, I select John Deere Operations Center. I press connect. It takes you to the login for your John Deere Operations Center piece. You're going to log into John Deere Operations Center just like you normally do. You would select Kinsey as the company you want to link with. Once you're done with that and you click accept, you will then get the green check just like we have with Ag Leader Agfinity. So now your accounts are connected. Wi-Fi connected to Blue Vantage. You're signed in to your Blue Connect account. We're syncing that data up to the cloud, either again, while driving through the field, or you wait till the end of the season and do it all at once. It will automatically send it to your John Deere Operations Center or Ag Leader Agfinity. So it's very simple, very easy. On Kinsey.com, if I go back to the home page, and I go under resources and firmware, and I scroll down to Blue Vantage, there's also guides on how to connect to John Deere Operations Center and Ag Leader Agfinity. So there's step-by-step guides to walk you through it in a paper copy. There's also going to be YouTube videos to walk you through that process as well. So very simple, very easy. I just wanted to touch on kind of the basic steps of where to go, what that looks like from the Blue Connect standpoint, so you kind of get a feel of what that's all about as well, since we talked about it several times today as a whole. So,
are you working to create a connection with climate?
So yes, we're working on a cloud-to-cloud connection with climate actually right now. with those guys. We are obviously we have the climate field view drive side of things for the log data piece, but of course we want it to come the other way as well. So to take prescription maps, all those type of things, and bring them from climate. So yes, we're working with those guys as we speak now to try and get that ready to go for next year, just like the Case IH side. With the field ops as well. So yes, that is in process as well. Once we add that feature to it, again, once you update software, that feature will become available. So
does the connection to John Deere Operations Center go to and from, or only to Operations Center?
For this year, so planting of this year, so model year 25, it just goes to Operations Center. So log data from Blue Vantage to Operations Center. Kind of what I just talked about with climate. We're working on the other direction for next year. So that way we can pull boundaries, prescriptions, those type of things from John Deere Operations Center and go both directions. But log data right now, working on that two-way street when we get into next year for planning of 26. So yes, in process.
But going back to map sync, when I sync maps, what does it sync to?
So when you sync, it will sync to our cloud based system. If you have more than one tablet in the fleet and you both are signed in, when you sync data together, so let's say you put prescriptions on one tablet, when you sync the other tablet or sync to the cloud, number one, those prescriptions go up to the cloud and allow the secondary display to bring them down. So you can only have to upload one tablet and send prescriptions and boundaries to all Blue Vantages. But when you sync, it goes up to the cloud for storage. So it can be pulled down and of course saved for multiple seasons, multiple years.
I'm gonna go, 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 I'm gonna go,
All right, guys.
I'm gonna go.
We kind of made her to the end. All right, I'm kind of walking through Blue Vantage display. Please feel free to type questions. Still, we'll again continue to hang out and answer them as long as we can. First, as we get to the end, number one, a reminder: get the update, the one that just came out for this coming planting season. Number two, this presentation is obviously has been recorded and will be put on Kinsey's YouTube channel. So if you got somebody else that wants to watch it, or something that is, you want to refresh it, or again, just walk through what we talked about today, it'll be out there for you to refresh yourself. There's a lot of other videos, shorter ones that are kind of on specific topics also for Blue Vantage. So those are out there to help you as well. Really, at the end of the day, we appreciate you taking the time to come listen, learn about Blue Vantage, and by above and all, obviously, thank you for your business, and thank you for supporting Kinsey and utilizing Kinsey as your preferred planner in your system. So thank you very much. Before we go, I don't want to short anybody off that was typing with GPS, etc. Any other questions that came up?
At the moment, no questions, just a few comments.
Okay.
Brian Young mentioned this was an excellent presentation. Thank you for taking the time to do this. Thanks for joining us today, Brian. Then Shane mentions fold and unfold is much smoother if tractor is in neutral for front folding planters.
So question was, fold or unfold is much smoother if tractor is in neutral for a front folding planter. Guys, I would always put the tractor in gear to fold. Okay, so if I'm unfolding, all right, I want to put it in a slow reverse gear. Me personally, how I unfold them is I watch the outside tires. All right, as I'm unfolding, I want it in reverse, and I'm slowly moving the tractor back. I kind of want to keep my rear center tires almost stationary and then move the tractor back. It just allows everything to move a lot smoother, a lot easier on everything. Watching those outside tires, if they start to wrinkle too far one way or another, I either need to stop slow down, or continue to go in reverse. So try and keep those middle tires stationary. Use the tractor in gear, unfolding and folding. It'll make life a lot easier. Always drive the tractor on a front fold as a whole. So
Mike also has another question and a little bit of clarity. Just to be clear, I do not have to change a SHP file to KML for Blue Vantage.
Mike, that is correct. You don't have to change a KML file, or excuse me, a shape file into a KML file for the Blue Vantage to recognize it. It doesn't need to be in a format. We support both. We will read both. As I said earlier, it's just the advantage of KML is you get a little more data with it to come into the display. But that's by all means not required. You can certainly select your own grower, farm, field, hybrid, etc. When you're selecting that prescription. So no big deal. It will work. If you have somebody that's writing them for you, or you just want extra reference documents, if you go to, again, Kinsey.com, on that firmware page, there is a good Blue Vantage RX and boundary file integration guide. If anybody has any questions on how the shape file should be laid out, good documentation in there to help you in the field as well. So that's out there also.
We have a question from Drake. When my interior boundary, like a waterway, doesn't touch the outside boundary, it tries to plant through it. What do I need to do to stop that?
So interior boundary, like a waterway, doesn't touch the outside boundary. It tries to plant through it. Ideally, that interior boundary shouldn't touch it. If it's marked as impassable, it should not plant through it at all. If there's problems with it, Dre, or you have specific examples, by all means, reach out to us. We can certainly help figure out what's going on with them. The same thing with, we can look at the boundaries specifically that you're looking at. We can see we have made some changes in 25 software. That's getting a lot in the weeds of what we've done to help with it, because Deere uses it boundaries and calls their boundaries a little different than everybody else from a management standpoint, which is fine. But we made some changes to help address that. But you want us to check it before you go to the field, reach out to us. You can certainly type your email into the chat. We can reach out direct, and I can help work through that to make sure that it's going to work how you expect it to work before we head in this spring as well. So be more than happy to help figure that out. The other question too, Mike, just as a side note on the shape file and KML, if you want us to double check that your shape files are good and working, by all means, type your email in, reach out to us directly through any of the facets to get a hold of us. We can certainly work with you on those prescriptions to make sure that they work correct as well. We do that a lot through the spring. That's what we're here for. We want to make sure it works correct. So just keep that in mind.
I'm gonna go. 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 I'm gonna go.
All right. I think we made it to the end of questions. So again, thank you guys very much for joining us today. We didn't go over too bad on our allotted time. So appreciate everybody joining today. We appreciate you being Kinsey customers. Stay tuned. We're probably going to keep doing this on an annual basis, give you guys an opportunity to learn about those changes with Blue Vantage. It was quite a bit this year. Again, might be smaller in the coming years, but always looking for feedback and to make sure you guys are ready to go for the spring. So again, thanks a lot. Thank you from everyone here at Kinsey, and we hope you have a great spring.